Hello and a very warm welcome. This is the news on Enter International. My name is Justin. Bemunyen, here are the top stories. Supreme Court affirms its earlier position on the appeal of Atiku Abubakar, upholds the verdict of the Court of Appeal that dismissed the petition. Presidency hails Supreme Court's reasons for dismissing Atiku Abubakar's appeal. And National Emergency Management Agency presents a new policy document on disaster management. Thank you very much for joining us. The Supreme Court has given full reasons why it dismissed the appeal filed by Atiku Abubakar, PDP presidential candidate in the 2019 presidential election. The Presidential Election Petition Court had dismissed the petition on the 11th of September 2019 for lack of merit. The Supreme Court reasons were read by Justice John Okoro on behalf of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad. Vera Chinwuba, who was at the Supreme Court, however, reports that the appellants were not represented in court.
The position of the law is that he who alleges proves. One of the reasons given by the Supreme Court is the inability to call witnesses who saw what happened at the polling units to testify, and they are the only ones who can give credible evidence. Justice John Okoro of the Supreme Court read the CJN's judgment. The court critically reviewed its records on the 5 grounds of the appeal on the issues of qualification, submission of false information, alleged overvoting, non-compliance with Electoral Act, and admissibility of certain documents. After going through its records, the court came to the conclusion that the appeal lacked merit, as the appellants, Atiku Abubakar and the PDP, could not prove the allegations in line with the provisions of the Constitution, Electoral and Evidence Acts. Justice Okoro said Sections 131 and 318 of the Constitution dealt extensively with the issue of qualification, of which the President has more than the school certificate giving exhibits tendered in relation to his military trainings within and outside the country. The contention of the appellants that they won the majority of lawful votes cast was not proved for want of credible witnesses. The court also rejected the results allegedly obtained from the server of an anonymous whistleblower relied upon by the appellants. The court affirmed the decision of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which had described President Muhammad Buhari as eminently qualified to run for the position he contested.
It was very, very robust, encompassing all aspects of the appellant's case as well as that of the respondents. And I think it was a very well-balanced judgment in looking at the facts and circumstances of the case.
Following the reasons given by the Supreme Court on the validity of election of Muhammad Buhari as the President of Nigeria, the matter has been put to rest. In Abuja, Vera Chinwuba, NTA News.
And meanwhile, the presidency has commended the stand of the Supreme Court on the PDP appeal on affirmation of the popular will of Nigerians. In a statement by Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu says the courts were convinced by arguments from the council representing the APC and its candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari, which proved beyond doubt that the Nigerian leader won the lawful vote cast. The statement therefore says it is critical for the opposition to scrutinize issues rather than preoccupy themselves with unsustainable court cases. It also appreciates the steps taken by the PDP and its candidate for taking these claims to courts rather than expressing them in other ways. In another development, legal experts have been asked to exercise serious caution in drafting legal instruments for the federal government by avoiding clauses that attract liability at the point of implementation in the oil and gas industry. Now, this informed the training of legal officers from the Federal Ministry of Justice by the Petroleum Technology Development Fund to equip them with requisite competence to handle drafting of legislations. Given the critical nature of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria, equipping judicial officers and legal practitioners from the Ministry of Justice with the requisite training to handle the country's diverse oil and gas sector is not only apt, but necessary. The training will enable them to keep abreast of the developments in the sector and emerging legislations to deal with the Nigerian situation. This is with reference to prosecution of offences, contractual obligations, arbitration and other means of dispute resolutions, in addition to understanding application of the various legislations in the industry. For the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, it becomes pertinent to look at the issues more critically to be able to address the lacunas in most legislations that often result in arguments and acrimonies in litigations.
It is better we write our laws very clearly. It is better we do all the negotiation possible. It is better we do all the reconciliation and conciliation that is possible before we sign off on our laws. It's going to reduce a lot of acrimonies. It's going to reduce a lot of fight in the industry. Therefore, we need you as lawyers.
With the theme, enhancing the quality of legal service in the Nigeria oil and gas industry, the participants are expected to effectively handle such issues in the event of litigation.
If we had had most of this training back then, the issue between Nigeria and the international country would not have happened in the case of P&D. We would have been able to redress most of the laws, we would have been able to contractualize most of the things that were supposed to have been in that particular agreement.
Justin. And now to politics, where eligible voters will this Saturday file out to exercise their franchise in the governorship elections in Kogi and Bayelsa states. Already, the Independent National Electoral Commission has distributed both sensitive and non-sensitive materials meant for the elections. The electoral umpire is also conducting a fresh senatorial election in Kogi West simultaneously with the governorship election in Kogi State. This is due to a Court of Appeals decision which nullified the election of the former occupant of the seat from Kogi West Senatorial District in the Senate. While the electoral umpire has assured Nigerians of a free, fair and credible election, security operatives are also providing watertight security before, during and after the elections. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has made a strong demand for exemplary conduct of non-partisanship on the part of election and law enforcement officials in Bayelsa and Kogi states' elections. President Buhari maintains that all involved must carry out their functions with fairness and transparency without hindrance, fear or favor. The president calls on voters in Bayelsa and Kogi states to exercise their franchise in a peaceful and orderly manner and in line with the law in all situations. The president wishes the two states and their peoples a safe and credible exercise as they vote in these historic and suspenseful elections. And now to other matters, Senator Abiodun Olujimi has commended the judiciary for her victory at both the election tribunal and at the appeal court. This was when the senator led a delegation of Omo Ekiti on a Kutsa visit to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo this Friday. Senator Olujimi told State House correspondent Jide Odifade that the judgment has strengthened her confidence in the Nigerian judiciary.
I went into it without the necessary confidence, being one, a female, two, without a governor, three, without the ruling government, and yet justice was done. I doff my hat to the judiciary. I also want to use this opportunity to call my brother, my friend, who was my opponent in the race and at the tribunal, Senator Adeyeye, to please let us put all hands on deck and ensure that the senatorial district is promoted, because it is by doing this that the future will be bright for us and for the people coming behind. What has happened is just the travels of democracy, and we all sign to it and subscribe to it. I wish him well.
Roads, federal roads, and the electricity, and the problem of having a statutory institution in Umu Kingdom. The Vice President graciously has highlighted the problems and the promise that will do whatever lies within his power to at least give his support and make sure that these problems are solved.
She promised to double her efforts in the service of the people of the Ekiti South Senatorial District and Nigeria as a whole. And now moving on, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has presented a new policy document that will change the models of disaster management from the usual relief material presentation in the aftermath of the disaster to a more strategic intervention before its occurrence. Eliaswali Yakubu reports that the Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, Mustapha Mehaja, unveiled the document.
The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction is the third in the series of adopted UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction that started about 30 years ago with Yokohama and a Yogu Framework of Action. This framework of action is a total deviation from the usual, where priority are only placed on aftermath of the disaster, now to a more secured preventive strategies that will take disaster risk reduction to a higher level. The policy document prioritizes 4 key areas on awareness, governance, capacity, and resilience to domesticate the UN Conference in the Management of Disaster. Director General of NEMA, Mustapha Mehaja, says, this new policy document, when implemented, will improve awareness, early warning, better preparedness, as well as establishment of sustainable structure for disaster risk reduction.
We need to integrate risks as well as potential opportunities into development, planning, and budgeting. This is the only way we can build resilience and sustainable societies capable of addressing both climate and disaster risk.
The unveiling of the policy document attracted stakeholders from all the intervening agencies and parastatals that will mainstream the document for effective execution. In Abuja, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
Now talking health, where the Nigerian Medical Association personnel has frowned against the traditional pattern of care that dominates the Nigerian healthcare space, as opposed to patient-centered care, which puts the individual patients first in all healthcare considerations. This was part of the resolutions at the second Nigerian Medical Association National Health Summit in Abuja and the 25th Commonwealth Medical Association. Aside medical negligence, the conference deliberated on public-private partnership for healthcare delivery, improving Nigeria health outcome and indices, reversing outbound medical tourism abroad, accelerating brain gain and reducing brain drain, and enhancing interprofessional harmonious relationship in the health sector. The summit observed that Nigeria's ability to rapidly improve her healthcare system and health outcomes still depends on the extent to which a greater percentage of the people have access to healthcare without recourse to out-of-pocket expenses. It also acknowledged the strategic importance of sustainable funding for a robust healthcare delivery and decried the persistently poor performance of the NHIS, poor budgetary allocation to the health sector, and lack of transparency in the disbursement and utilization of funds, including the 1% Consolidated Revenue Fund. Now, you are watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. Stay tuned for more after the break.
Your information dey important, just like your identity. Na the only way we fit take hala you o. Make you go browse easy.gotvafrica.com. Sign in with your IUC number and mobile number and scroll down to personal details and address. Then check well to see say everything bam. You fit change the one wey not correct. To finish everything, just click the save button and it don finish.
Thank you. I make sure say my phone number dey correct.
That's now why GoTV fit call me, make I come collect my own awoof.
Angel, time for my phone in Hawaii because now my correct phone number dey for boo.
GoTV. Live it. Love it.
Now look me again, no. Make you go do your own.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
You're welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari has joined the Nigerian media in celebrating the milestone attained by the Nigerian Tribune. The president, who felicitates with the board, management and staff of the Nigerian Tribune newspapers on its 70th anniversary, extolled the virtues of the founder of the outfit, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, whose legacies, he noted, are in almost all sectors, speaking of his patriotism, intellect and unusual wisdom. Founded at the height of nationalist movement in 1949, President Buhari reiterates the role of the Nigerian Tribune during Nigeria's struggle for independence, which he noted has been sustained in the post-colonial era. President Buhari affirms that the people-first philosophy of the media house has continued to inspire its reach and influence, hence the need for the board and management to consistently keep faith with the vision of the founding fathers. In the meantime, the Nigerian Television Authority has been identified as a key partner in inculcating right attitude amongst youth through its content in news and programs. The Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Association of Nigeria said these at a visit on NTA's Director General Yakubu Ibn Mohammed. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
It is a general belief that the media and the society need one another, and it is for this reason that the Mandela Fellowship Alumni, which has been working to address moral degeneration amongst youth, is visiting the NTA to seek collaboration to inculcate positive values as exemplified by the Madiba Nelson Mandela.
Our projects are majorly volunteerism, mentorship and all that. To be able to have the desired effect, we have come here to seek your partnership. So you could help us reach other people, mentor other youths, reach out to them.
I can assure you that NTA belongs to every Nigerian. If all hands would be on deck and going by the commitment and sacrifice that you guys are making, I think we would have gone far beyond where we are today.
Follow-ups and further engagement towards achieving those goals are expected to hold between the two parties in due course. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Now, 20 years ago, African heads of state launched the Yamoussoukro decision to facilitate the liberalization of air transport services in Africa. But till now, that objective is yet to be fully realized. This led to the launch of the Single African Air Transport Market, SATM, last year as the African Union flagship project of Agenda 2063 to drive the open skies. Will SATM change the African narrative? Emmanuel Ayimiro is in Dakar, Senegal, to find answers to this.
Airports in Africa face many challenges, but also offer many opportunities.
So far, 31 states have signed commitment to the implementation of the Single African Air Transport Market,
while 23 others are yet to, although experts are of the opinion that there is hope for the realization of the open skies, as Africa is the second continent with the highest growing traffic, even when commitment to the Single African Air Transport Market is still low.
Intra-African routes and frequencies are growing. This is a positive development, which is what we see in the density.
It is important that all African member states join the SATM and remove the restrictions in terms of capacity, frequency and routing of traffic rights while improving connectivity.
Taking a cue from successful continents on how they realize their single air transport market is the way out.
Africa is home to over 1.2 billion people. This represents over 15% of the world population. But at the same time, this continent accounts for just 3 to 4% of the global air services market.
Africa has a poor record of air transport liberalization, which drastically impairs connectivity and competition.
Various policies, including the recently signed African Continental Free Trade Agreement and the Open Skies, are geared toward improving transportation in the continent. From Dakar in Senegal, Emmanuel Ayemiru, NTA News.
And now Olainka Ojo is standing by with stories trending in the financial sector.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says it has concluded arrangements with the United States Trade and Development Agency to sign a $1.16 million grant as part of funding for the NNPC Abuja Independent Power Project. The plant is modeled to generate 1,350 megawatts of electricity to alleviate the power challenge across the country. The Group Managing Director, NNPC, Mele Kyari, said the plan by the corporation to build the power plant in Abuja is part of the national strategy to monetize the abundant natural gas resources across the country. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, has projected Africa's aviation sector to be one of the world's fastest growing, supporting up to 9.8 million jobs and contributing $159 billion to Africa's gross domestic product by 2036. President of the ICAO Council, Bernard Aliu, said Africa's aviation industry is projected to grow by 4.3% annually up to 2045. Let's now see how the commodity market is faring, both locally and internationally. Olainka Ojo for Business News.
And now for trending news from other parts of the globe, here is Uche Ogochukwu.
Kenya and Somalia have agreed to normalize diplomatic relations despite an ongoing maritime boundary case at the International Court of Justice. The reconciliation will start with restoration of the issuance of travel visas on arrival for citizens of the two East African countries. This follows a meeting on Thursday between Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Somalia counterpart Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo on the sidelines of the just concluded International Conference on Population and Development Summit in Nairobi. Police in South Africa's capital of Pretoria have started removing refugees who had camped outside the office of the United Nations Refugee Agency. A court order on Wednesday instructed the 300 refugees who had been camping there since October to vacate the area within 3 days. And 5 Southeast Asian countries, China and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, have agreed to improve intelligence sharing and law enforcement operations to fight drug trafficking in the region by transnational crime groups. The trafficking operations are also being driven by increasingly sophisticated criminal groups that can funnel tons of drugs from the Golden Triangle to countries stretching from Japan to New Zealand. Uche Ogochukwu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with the government and people of Ondo State, friends and professional colleagues of the former Minister of Information, Chief Alex Akinyele, who passed away on Thursday night. The president urged him to take solace in the lasting legacies of the former minister, who also served as chairman of National Sports Commission and chairman of National Reconciliation Committee. As a trained teacher and public relations specialist, President Buhari affirms that Chief Akinyele's zeal for nation development was demonstrated through his exemplary leadership, discipline and diligence exhibited while in service. The president prays that God grants the former minister eternal rest and also comforts his family members. Now, Sports Parliament excerpts on NTA football coverage in Oyo. Now, stakeholders have reassured Nigerians on NTA's commitment towards quality sports coverage following Wednesday's Nigeria-Benin Republic game in Oyo. Kenema Bodike completes the report.
With the taste of a 2-1 victory yet to fade, many football fans in the country expressed dissatisfaction